Welcome back to my channel. Today we want to learn about the prison of perfect sentences. Omid understood English. He could read articles without a dictionary. He could watch movies without subtitles. He could even write long messages with almost no mistakes. But when it was time to speak, silence. His mind became crowded. Grammar rules lined up like strict teachers. Is it present perfect or past simple? Is this preposition correct? What if I pronounce it wrong? By the time he finished thinking, the moment to speak was gone. In class, he always knew the answer. He just didn't say it. In meetings with foreign clients, he prepared sentences in advance. But when someone asked an unexpected question, his heart started racing. He wasn't afraid of English. He was afraid of making mistakes. One afternoon, something small but painful happened. A new colleague from another country joined their office, friendly, open, confident. During lunch, everyone was chatting in English. Omid understood everything. He even had jokes in his head. But he stayed quiet. Later that day, he heard someone say, "Omid is shy." Shy. Severe woord. He wasn't shy. He had thoughts, ideas, opinions. They were just trapped behind overthinking. That night, he sat alone in his room and asked himself a hard question. Why can I think in English but not speak it? The answer came slowly. Because thinking is private. Speaking is exposure. When you think, no one judges you. When you speak, you risk being wrong. And Omid hated being wrong. In school, mistakes meant red marks, laughter, embarrassment. So he trained himself to be careful. Too careful. But language is not a math equation. IT is movement. IT is messy. IT is alive. The next day, something unexpected happened. His manager asked him to join a short online call with an international partner. Just listen, the manager said. You don't need to talk. Those words felt safe. During the call, the partner asked a simple question. There was a short pause. Omid knew the answer immediately. His brain started building the perfect sentence. Subject, verb tense, polite expression. But then something inside him snapped. Not angry. Just clearly. He was tired of rehearsing life instead of living it. Before his brain could finish editing, he spoke. The sentence wasn't perfect. He hesitated on one word. His pronunciation wasn't flawless. But the meaning was clear. The partner nodded. Exactly, he said. That's what I meant. The conversation continued. No one laughed. No one corrected him. No one cared about the tiny mistake he was still replaying in his head. After the call ended, his heart was still beating fast. But not from fear. From realization. The world didn't collapse. The grammar police didn't appear. The ceiling didn't fall. He had spoken and survived. That evening, he walked home differently. Not dramatically confident. Not magically fluent. But later, he understood something powerful. The next morning, Omid felt the familiar tension again. One small success does not erase years of hesitation. At work, he replayed yesterday's sentence in his head. The hesitation, the slight grammatical flaw, the way his voice sounded. His mind tried to convince him it was luck. You were lucky it was a simple question. Next time will be harder. You should prepare more. That was the old pattern. Erwartung. Prepare endlessly. Stay silent. But something had shifted. Instead of promising himself that he would speak perfectly next time, he made a different promise. He would speak early, before fear had time to grow. Later that day, during a team discussion in English, an idea came to his mind. Normally, he would refine it silently. Adjust words. Search for better vocabulary. This time, he spoke within 5 seconds. The sentence came out slightly messy. He paused mid-phrase. He replaced one word with a simpler one. But he finished it, and something interesting happened. The conversation moved forward because of his idea, not because of his grammar. No one dissected his sentence. They responded to the meaning. That evening, he realized a truth that felt almost embarrassing. People care about clarity, not perfection. The prison had never been English. It had been his standards. For years, he believed speaking required readiness. But speaking creates readiness. The more he waited to feel confident, the more distant confidence became. So he created a small rule. No translating in his head. If a thought appeared in Persian, he would say it in simple English immediately. Not complex. Not advanced. Simpler. If we try this option, it might work better. I'm not sure, but maybe we can test it. I agree with this idea. Short sentences. Direct. Alive. At first, it felt unnatural. His brain still tried to edit. Too plish. But speed weakened fear. The faster he spoke, the less space anxiety had to build. One afternoon, he faced a harder moment. A foreign client asked him an unexpected question during a live meeting. His heart rate increased instantly. The old Omid would have said, "Let me check and get back to you." Safe, avoidant. Instead, he took a breath and answered slowly. He didn't search for impressive vocabulary. He searched for honesty. I don't have the full data right now, but based on what I know. The sentence wasn't elegant, but it was real. And real communication builds trust faster than polished silence. After the meeting, something clicked deeply. He wasn't afraid of mistakes. He was afraid of judgment. But most judgment existed only in his imagination. In reality, people were focused on their own performance, their own words, their own fears. No one was analyzing his grammar the way he did. He began testing himself intentionally, ordering coffee in English when possible, starting small conversations, volunteering one comment per meeting, not to impress, but to train. He understood something powerful. Thinking strengthens understanding. Talking strengthens identity. Every time he spoke, he was voting for a new version of himself. A version that participates. A version that risks. A version that is heard. Weeks passed. His sentences became smoother, not because he memorized more rules, but because he stopped freezing. Momentum replaced hesitation. And the most surprising part, he started enjoying it. The moment right before speaking still carried a little tension, but now it felt like energy. Not danger. He realized fluency was not about knowing more words. It was about reducing fear between thought and voice. The smaller that gap became, the freer he felt. He had spent years building perfect sentences in silence. Now he was building confidence out loud. Endsystemen. He wasn't going back to quiet. Something else began to change inside Omid. It was no longer just about speaking more. It was about thinking less before speaking. He started noticing the exact moment fear appeared. It was always the same second. The tiny pause between having an idea and deciding whether to say it. That pause used to be long. Now he was shrinking it. One afternoon, during a brainstorming session, a new proposal was being discussed. People were sharing ideas quickly. The conversation moved fast. Omid felt that familiar pressure again. What if I say something obvious? What if my sentence sounds childish? What if I can't explain it clearly? But then another thought appeared. What if no one cares as much as I think they do? Before his mind could build a perfect structure, he leaned forward and spoke. I think we're overcomplicating this. Maybe we can start with a simpler version first. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't advanced. But it shifted the direction of the discussion. People nod. Someone expanded on his idea. The room moved with his words. And in that moment, something powerful clicked. Fluency is not about complex vocabulary. It is about participation. He realized he had been training silently for years. Reading, listening, studying. But he had avoided the one thing that actually builds speaking ability. Speaking. You cannot think your way into confidence. You speak your way into it. That week, he made another decision. No more silent preparation before every conversation. If someone asked him something in English, he would answer immediately, even if the sentence felt simple, even if it felt incomplete. He stopped trying to impress. He started trying to express. There was a difference. Impressing requires perfection. Expressing requires honesty. And honesty is easier. One evening, he joined an online group conversation with people from different countries. Normally, he would mute himself and just listen. This time, he turned his microphone on. His heart beat faster. His hands felt slightly cold. But he spoke. At first, his voice sounded unfamiliar to his own ears. Not bad, just exposed. He stumbled once. He laughed at himself and kept going. Something interesting happened. The more he accepted small mistakes, the less they happened. Because tension was disappearing. And tension blocks flow. He started noticing that when he relaxed, words came faster. When he focused on meaning instead of grammar, sentences formed naturally. Language began to feel like a tool again. Not hard test. Weeks passed. Colleagues began asking him questions directly during meetings. Not because he was perfect, but because he was responsive. His reactions were faster. His confidence more visible. And the biggest surprise? He stopped translating in his head. The gap between thought and speech became smaller. Sometimes he even surprised himself with how naturally a sentence came out. He understood something that changed everything. The brain adapts to what you force it to do. If you force it to analyze, it analyzes. If you force it to speak, it learns to speak. Fear had trained his brain to freeze. Action was retraining it to move. He still wasn't flawless. But he was free. And freedom felt better than perfection ever could. The quiet version of him still existed somewhere inside. But now it no longer controlled him. Now, when a thought appeared, it had a voice. And once you experience that kind of freedom, silence becomes much harder too. Choose. The real transformation didn't happen in a big, dramatic moment. It happened in small, almost invisible shifts. Omid began to notice that he was no longer afraid of starting sentences. Before, the hardest part was the first word. Now, the first word came faster. Sifir Hadan T completely disappeared. It had just lost authority. One day, during a larger presentation with international partners, something unexpected happened. The main speaker's internet connection became unstable. His voice started cutting out. The screen froze. There was confusion for a few seconds. Silence. That dangerous silence. Omid felt the old reflex trying to pull him back. Stay quiet. Wait. Let someone else handle it. But another voice inside him spoke louder. If not now, when? Before he could overanalyze, he unmuted himself. I think we lost him for a moment. I can quickly summarize the last point while we reconnect. His sentence wasn't rehearsed. His tone wasn't perfect. But it was steady. He explained the key idea in simple English. Short sentences. Clear structure. No fancy vocabulary. Just claret. When the main speaker returned, he said, "Thanks, that was helpful, helpful." That word stayed in Omid's mind for hours. Not impressive. Not advanced. Helpful. For the first time, he wasn't trying to prove his English level. He was using English. That shift changed everything. Language stopped being a performance. It became a bridge. And bridges don't need decoration. They need strength. That evening, walking home, he realized something almost ironic. The more he focused on communicating clearly, the more his grammar improved naturally. The more he spoke, the smoother his pronunciation became. Because practice was finally real, not theoretical. He started doing something new outside of work too. When watching English videos, he would pause and repeat sentences out loud. Not to memorize them, but to feel them. C'est rythme, c'est flow, c'est speed. At first, he felt silly. Talking to a screen. Repeating phrases alone in his room. But he understood something important. Embarrassment in private builds confidence in public. He also changed how he reacted to mistakes. Before, a single wrong word could ruin his mood for hours. Now, when he made a mistake, he corrected it calmly. Or sometimes, he didn't correct it at all, because communication had already happened. He began to notice something else. People were interrupting him less, not because his grammar was perfect, but because his delivery was more confident. Confidence reduces interruptions. Hesitation invites them. And confidence is built by repetition, not by thinking. One afternoon, a new intern joined the team. During a discussion, the intern struggled to speak in English. He hesitated, apologized repeatedly, restarted sentences. Omid recognized that version of himself instantly. After the meeting, he told him something simple. Don't wait to feel ready. Speak first. Fix later. The intern looked relieved. In cet moment, Omi had come. He wasn't just speaking more. He was thinking differently. He no longer saw English as a test of intelligence. He saw it as a skill of courage. And courage grows only when used. There were still moments of doubt, occasional hesitation. But now, those moments passed quickly. Because he had evidence. Evidence that nothing terrible happens when you speak imperfectly. Evidence that clarity matters more than complexity. Evidence that action defeats anxiety. Months ago, he had been trapped in his own head. Now, he was present in conversations, participating, contributing, connecting. The distance between his thoughts and his voice had almost disappeared, and that distance had once been the only thing holding him back. He finally understood the meaning of something simple. Stop thinking. Start talking. Because thinking keeps you safe. But talking builds your world. As Omid kept speaking, something deeper changed. He stopped measuring himself after every sentence. Before, he would replay conversations in his head for hours. Now, he moved on. That alone saved his energy. He realized overthinking doesn't just block speech. It drains confidence. So he created one final rule. No post-conversation analysis unless it helps improvement. If a mistake happened, he corrected it once and let it go. No emotional punishment. No mental replay. Just growth. The more he practiced this, the lighter he felt. Conversations became smoother. Not perfect, but natural. Then came a real test. He was asked to lead a short presentation alone. No backup. No safety net. Months ago, he would have prepared scripts for every possible question. This time, he prepared structure, main points, key examples, clear opening, strong ending. He didn't memorize sentences. He trusted himself to speak. During the presentation, he paused once to find a word. He smiled and rephrased. No panic, no Polly. And that confidence made the audience trust him more. After it ended, someone said, "You speak very naturally." Naturally. If only they knew how many years he had stayed silent. The truth was simple. Fluency didn't come from thinking harder. It came from acting sooner. He stopped waiting to be perfect. He stopped editing life before living it. He accepted mistakes as part of movement. And movement built momentum. Momentum built confidence. Confidence built fluency. In the end, he understood something powerful. Your voice grows stronger only when you use it. If you keep your ideas inside your head, they shrink. If you release them, they expand. Stop overanalyzing every word. Stop rehearsing conversations that may never happen. Stop trying to sound impressive. Start speaking. Start participating. Start showing up. Because confidence is not built in silence. It is built in action. Omid didn't become perfect. He became free. And freedom is far more powerful than perfection. If you've been waiting for the right moment to speak, this is IT. Close the gap between thought and voice. Takes a risk. Say the sentence. And let growth happen out loud. Goodbye and start talking.